The ancient Ramin, a building shrouded in mystery and whispered tales of hauntings. It's a place that draws in ghost hunters, historians, and those with an inquisitive mind. But how much of the legend of the ancient Ramin is rooted in fact, and how much is simply legend? In this video, I'm going to dive into the history of the ancient Ramin in an attempt to separate what is documented fact from the very exaggerated claims of the paranormal. So, the story begins in 1145. The ancient Ramin was originally constructed as a dwelling place for the masons of the nearby St. Mary's Church. It was technically more of a construction site office, not really a portal to the other side. Kinda seems far from the den of supernatural activity that it's become. Later, it became the residence of the first vicar of Watton-under-Edge. A vicarage. Hardly the stuff of nightmares. Over the centuries, the building transitioned. It may have been an inn for travellers, a place to rest their weary bones. Is this where some of these legends may have been born? Imagine a bunch of weary travellers sat around a fire in an old building. Alcohol is being drunk, and then tall tales are told. Each time the story is told, they're often more exaggerated, like the Chinese whisper. People start talking of smugglers and highwaymen, or romantic figures from folklore, witches. And then these stories become known as fact of people that have graced this wonderful hall. But no matter how hard you research, any historical fact for any of these colourful characters is severely lacking. Fast forward to 1968, where John Humphreys takes ownership of the inn. And this is the time period that marks a turning point. You see, John Humphreys, an eccentric man, embraced the inn's growing reputation for being haunted. He spoke of encountering spirits, of feeling presences, and of unearthing skeletal remains. He also made claims of an incubus and a succubus being present at the property, both of which have attacked him. Now, I'm not going to say what an incubus and a succubus do, you're going to have to look that up for yourself, but essentially, they are a male and female sex demon. John then opened up the inn to paranormal investigators, and this seemed to cement the ancient Ramin as one of the most haunted places in the UK. And John's claims were eventually bolstered by UK paranormal heavyweights Most Haunted. You'll know my thoughts on that show. When Most Haunted visited the ancient Ramin, the ghosts were shown to be violent, attacking a man, Stuart Torval, and Stuart Torval later claiming that the attack was so violent that it left him traumatised to the point that he lost all of his hair. Let's talk about the hauntings themselves. So, the Bishop Room. It's the most well-known of the rooms at the ancient Ramin. Apparently a hotbed of paranormal activity. This is where stories of ghostly cavaliers, ghostly monks, and the incubus and succubus stem from. Then we have the Witch's Room, which is rumoured to be haunted by a witch that was burned at the stake. And the attic is often rumoured to be haunted by the spirit of a lady who met a tragic end. And the bar area is apparently the stage for former innkeepers and other apparitions. The list at this building goes on and on. But here's where we have to apply a bit of logic. Most of these tales lack any historical evidence. The tale of a woman burned at the stake, quite a profound event that would have been recorded. Yet there are no historical documents to say that there was a witch burned at the stake linked to the ancient Ramin. There are no records to support this claim anywhere near this area. The claims of ritualistic sacrifice. Again, there's no concrete evidence whatsoever. Claims of this building being on ley lines, while there's no scientific proof that ley lines have any impact on anyone. But it is quite easy to see how this very old, very dark, very cold building can spark your imagination. You know, a cracking floorboard could become a ghostly footstep. A draft in this very cold building becomes a ghostly presence. Whilst we're looking at the ghostly claims, things like the grave that was dug up in the bar area, where 2 remains of children were found. There's no proof that they were in fact children. They could have been animal bones. The dagger went missing when it was sent off to be authenticated, so we have no proof that that dagger was old or involved in any sort of sacrifice. And the remains found in the grave, rumoured to be 2 children, they were never substantiated. In fact, there's more calls for it actually of being animal remains. We also have to acknowledge that the power of suggestion plays a massive role into what goes on at the Ancient Ram Inn. If you visit a place known to be haunted, you are in fact primed to experience something. Your senses are going to be heightened. You are going to experience the normal in a very different, heightened way. And that's not to say that these people haven't had genuine experiences for them. It just feels like it's important that we have to consider all possibilities before stating this building is the most haunted inn in the UK. We need to look for alternative conclusions. The Humphreys era undeniably shaped this building's identity, and John Humphreys' enthusiasm and his storytelling undoubtedly added to the building's mystique. But is it not also possible that John, over time, embellished some of these tales? Like the tales told in the bar at earlier times around a campfire with alcohol, could these tales have become more and more dramatic with each retelling? Despite all of the wild claims that are made of the Ancient Ram Inn, I have never seen any convincing evidence of this building being haunted. In fact, I've yet to see anything that even remotely piques my interest, something that requires a deep dive, a deep debunk into the footage. The footage that I have looked at from some teams, and you'll see those videos on this channel, is at best questionable, but in my opinion, all faked or staged. I have seen and made videos about numerous things being faked there, tables being shunted when it's clearly people moving around the table, table tipping that is clearly people pushing the table. Stuart Torval, almost to comedic effect, throwing himself around, pretending to be attacked by an incubus or a succubus. Sam and Colby hearing voices on the second floor that couldn't possibly be coming from the outside, claiming that the second floor was too high up to capture these voices, whilst leaving out the fact that the second floor of the Ancient Ram Inn is actually at street level. The ground floor or the first floor, depending where you are in the world, is set under the ground. You have to drive down a very steep ramp to get to the kitchen, the bar and the living room areas. If you look out of the bedroom windows, you look onto the street. My own visit there, at one point we heard kids' voices, and I opened the curtains and there are two faces staring back at me. They weren't ghostly apparitions, they were the locals. And there used to be a sign on the main door as you walked in: once investigating, keep the lights off and the curtains closed, as the local youths will play up. That sign was removed on my last visit. I wonder why. I have visited the Ancient Ram Inn on two separate occasions, and on both of those occasions I experienced absolutely nothing. Whilst people are claiming that they're hearing all this creaking, walking and banging, the building is silent as soon as your teammates stop moving. People that go on these haunted event companies where there's too many people in such a loud building are creating their own false positives without realising. But when you take a team of 3 or 4 people and everybody behaves themselves, the place is silent. No random creaking, no random popping of floorboards. The building is dead. In fact, the only thing to come from my 2 visits to the Ancient Ram Inn was being able to disprove other people's claims. Not everybody's claims, but you know, those paranormal YouTubers that go for the shock value. The Ancient Ram Inn today still remains with the Humphreys family, and it continues to attract guests and ghost hunters, and those simply intrigued by its reputation. But it is a business, and the haunted part of it adds to the attraction. Also take a look at the way that guests are treated at the Ancient Ram Inn. For example, a group of debunkers go there with much smaller channels, and we're just given a PIN code for a gate and a PIN code for a door. We enter the building and then we just get a phone call from the owner because there's one extra person that we were happy to pay for. We always were happy to pay for. Yet when larger teams go there, specifically larger American teams go there, the building owners are on location to tell tales, to take part in table tipping, to show how haunted this building can be. So how come the bigger your channel, the more haunted and the more experience you get at this Ancient Ram Inn? So what is the truth of the Ancient Ram Inn? It is a building with a fascinating history if you do a deep dive into it. But from what I've seen researching this building, it's just a history that's been intertwined with folklore and legend. While the documented history is compelling in itself, the ghost stories lack any evidence to back them up. That's not to say that the inn isn't atmospheric, or the people are not having experiences there. I'm not discounting everybody's experiences, But it's crucial to look at these tall tales with a dose of healthy skepticism. To me, ultimately, the Ancient Ramin is just an old building where history and some mystery kind of collide. Whether you believe in ghosts or not, the design of the building, the age of the building, the artifacts inside the building do spark the imagination. It is such a beautiful old building, and the artifacts are amazing. I've been there twice, and every time you look, you spot something that you haven't seen before. But in a way, it's kind of almost like a haunted attraction too. And in with this design and in with all of these items, could it be by design just to feed into our fascination with the unknown? So let me know in the comment section down below, have you ever visited the Ancient Ramin? Have you ever experienced anything there? Because I haven't. And all of the legitimate teams that have been there, that I trust, that I have worked with, not a single one of them has ever experienced anything that they've even had to debunk. In fact, none of them have ever experienced a thing. Hope you enjoyed this different type of video. Obviously, when I've gone to a location a few times, when I get a feel for it, there's a little bit more to say other than, you know, there's the paranormal investigation video. And in 2 visits, I just felt the place was completely flat. The first time I slept there, and there was nothing. I didn't hear a thing, even when sleeping. The second time, it was just so cold that we all had to leave by about 2 AM. I should have left the first time because it wasn't much warmer then. If you are going to go to the Ancient Ramin, wear warm clothes, take sleeping bags, quilts, everything you can to keep warm, because at certain points I was going outside to keep warm. I'm not saying that's the fault of the building. They don't allow heaters and things to be taken in. They're not PAT tested. But it's an uncomfortable stay if you've driven a long, long way. Much love to you all. Beardo out.